keeps it going. Today, we have Spencer Tatum, strength coach extraordinaire, performance. I hate to even call you a strength coach because there's so much more that you do. Business owner, gym owner, you design and implement exercise programs and coach some of the best athletes in the world. And in particular, you had a great run and recently culminated with a major champion winner, Jon Rahm. We have on the podcast today, and we're going to go deep into all the programming that goes into that and the long journey that it took to get there. But before we get there, we have to introduce my man, Mr. Spencer Tatum. Welcome to Coach Class Podcast, and great to have you, my man.
Oh, man, it's an honor. I mean, first of all, man, I get to hang out with you for a little bit in my day. I mean, shoot, that's the best thing we got going on today. So it's great. Thanks for having me, Jay, and looking forward to chatting it up.
Well, you know what's really fun is we just had our 400th podcast episode, 400th. And what's crazy about that is you're the first guest on the show since the 400th episode. And your main man, the main man, Jimmy Yoon, was my first guest I ever had on the podcast. So like from zero, I had a couple podcasts on my own first, like a couple episodes first, but he was my first guest. Yep. And he is your main man. He's your medical counterpart. He is your Harry say that I have on your team. And well, Harry's on your team as well, but it's so cool to have you on the show as my first guest after 400 episodes.
I mean, Jay, we got a lot of history here. You filmed it in our office, right?
Yes, that's right. We recorded it in your office.
Yeah, you were there when I met my wife. So
we'll get to that.
You know, I mean, hey, we got an epic journey here.
We have an epic journey, and it's only just begun. Wow, that sounds like a Celine Dion song or something like that. I'm not sure. We'll look that lyric up later. But I want to get into it. I kind of feel a little bit guilty here because I want to just hang out, just the two of us, and just, shoot the shit like we normally would be, like we would in a hotel room in Phoenix when we come down to visit you guys. And we always have such a wonderful time, go out for dinner and then just talk shop, until the wee hours of the morning. But to do this formally on the podcast, we do have to get into some business and give the listeners really what they would be wanting to know. And you're so much more than this, but I have to go down. Sure. We'll start off with the Jon Rahm stuff because it is such an amazing story. It's such a huge, feather in the cap to have one of your players win a major championship. And I'm just so proud of you, man. Like you guys, I remember the journey, and I want you to share the story, but I remember when you first started that journey and having some of those conversations with you about like how do we structure this? How do we build this thing out? How do we support this guy the best way possible? Mm-hmm. And we had those conversations a long time ago. And then to see, man, he did it. He won a major championship. And congratulations to you, Jimmy, Harry, Dave Phillips, and the entire Jon Rahm team. Congratulations on the US Open Championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fulfilling to watch somebody in their journey, right? And to see like where we started to where they're at now and become the person that they knew they could be. I mean, to me, I think there's, whether it's John or it's one of our clients that's just, trying to get fit or whatever that is, or it's just fun to see that, right? And it's a rewarding experience. So what do we do?
So you started the whole journey back when John was in university and he was playing on the Arizona Red Devils, Blue Devils. But I'm joking.
Oh man, come on, Sun Devils, man, come on.
I got to bust your balls. This is the Coach Class Podcast. so the Sun Devils. He's on the Sun Devils.
So we got called in. They were having some challenges in the weight room with their golf teams, men's, women's. Melissa Wellen called me in to come in and talk about, could we do some golf performance, help them out.
Who's also been on the podcast, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
She's awesome. I mean, so coach called me. We did TPI together here in, what's that, 2009? Lance, Jimmy, and Greg, I think we're doing it. So I met Melissa, and I already had a relationship when I worked at Arizona State for a little bit as a management intern outside of strength conditioning. And then we reconnected and then brought in, and then their men's coach there was this gentleman named Tim Mickelson, who's Phil's brother. And he's like, well, this sounds great. They're going to do it. We're going to do it. And one of the things that's kind of cool, and Jimmy, we told them that they would probably, if we did it right, based on the talent they had and kind of what we knew, they could win a national championship in 3 years. And we did that on the women's side.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool. But then when Jon, there's this young Spaniard that came in, and Tim said he was very talented. He never really trained. And we just kind of built a relationship from there, went through, I have TPI screens from 2013 or 14 to now, power data, strength data on him to see his development and how long he's came from. But I think the one thing that a lot of people don't know about Jon, well, two things. One, he's a really good athlete. Like he's his ability to learn is super high. High hand coordination. He grew up playing soccer. He was a soccer goalie. Played highlight, which is like handball. You did kayaking growing up. So he had like all these different skill sets. On the other side of it, his right foot is actually a club foot that he wears 2 different size shoes and no ankle mobility. So for him to generate the power and rotate and have that sharp backswing, it's pretty impressive to see.
So it's his trail foot that is the club foot.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we talk about dorsiflexion and TPI, and we talk about, maintaining posture in your golf swing, we test dorsiflexion, or for everyone else, just ankle flexion. We test that so that you can load into that trail leg properly, get your hip back so you can really get a good load without any compensation. And when you have a club foot, well, that's kind of hard to do. So you guys have done a great job of, I always say, if you have a limitation that can't be fixed, and we do have athletes on my side that also have some limitations that can't be fixed, well, you better make the rest of the body bulletproof, because that compensation will put wear and tear on the segment below or the segment above. And when that happens, you got to make those areas bulletproof so we don't, kind of complicate the whole system. So maybe share a little bit about some of the challenges. Obviously our listeners aren't going to run into a lot of people with only one club foot, but let's just say if you had somebody with those limitations, like how much of your programming and coaching with him involves you working around that limitation?
Yeah. So you want to eliminate everything else, right? So that is the dysfunctional pattern that we can't fix. Like we were saying, that we got to make sure the rest of the body is moving. So we always make sure the internal and external hip rotation works well. And then, the T-spine's moving. And then that body swing connection, make sure that rotary stability is really tight in, that trunk stability, that we really have that tight in, because when Jon starts having problems, is most of the time, it's never a swing issue, it's a body issue. So we normally, there's something off in the kinetic chain that's off. And so when we're dealing with somebody who has that limited ankle mobility, so like bilateral squatting where both legs in the ground, like whether you're using a squat bar or a goblet or whatever, we can't do that much of it. And if we do, we have to raise his heels to take the ankle out of the equation. So, when we look at bilateral work, or where both feet are on the ground, we're looking at trap bar deadlift, and things along those lines that we don't have on ankle flexion. It's more hip flexion, whether it's barbell, kettlebell swings. And then also to a lot of single leg work, we're doing step ups, can't really lunge that well. So we don't really do too much in that pattern, but, really thinking more single leg, making sure that all the other parts are working effectively and efficiently for him to express force and power.
Wow. I mean, that is such like a challenge for people, that when we look at athletes and we try and design programs for them, we think about the perfect athlete. And then when you have to work around it puts so many limitations, like you said, doing single leg stuff versus bilateral stuff. Now, what that does though, and this is what I found is really interesting about our jobs, is when you have an athlete like that challenges you to make changes to your programming, what you find is, there's some benefits to this that I would have traditionally maybe trained bilaterally. Now I go single leg, and now we have these new kind of adaptations that we wouldn't have got bilaterally. My programming has designed kind of morphed into probably around 80% unilateral work, where I don't want a lot of time when both feet are on the ground in the exact same stance in the exact same position if I'm doing leg work. But but there are like kettlebell swings and stuff. There's not a lot you can get around that, but
Right.
but for the most part, I'm not a big like, squat guy, heavy deadlift guy. I'd rather go single leg and get pelvic control and unilateral work. And so those challenges that you get in the training room lead to you maybe some advances in your programming that you also use on a healthy population.
For sure. I think also too, also the beauty of this, like we've talked about on the screen, is that it makes the exercisers less, right? We deleted a lot of work. And so let's say if our exercise library is 3,000, right? And then boom, it can finally write down to like, okay, here's a top 20 that's gonna get the most bang for your buck, right? So it just made your job easier as a coach if you did a screen, and then you know where to go and you don't have to think, well, do they need this, and need this, and this, like bang, you're done. And then it also helps you understand what you do from how you're going to measure strength and how you're going to measure power going after that. So I think it's a cool thing. But the one thing that makes Jon special is the ability to dissociate. What we found in TPI is since Jon doesn't load and create a lot of lag in the backswing. So imagine like he's pulling the slingshot back only to 75%, where everybody else is pointed back to 100. But then when he goes to go, he moves the slingshot, that lead leg forward without sliding, and creates a rotation. He creates more disassociation than anybody they've ever measured in TPI.
Wow.
So that's kind of something cool that he can do. And you watch him do a simple drill like karaoke that we do with athletes, right? All different sports. And his hips almost get to 90 degrees. It's pretty sick to see him do it. It's impressive. That a guy 6'3", 240.
Well, I always say that what you giveth on one side, you taketh away on the other side. And so you have a choice. You can either, like you say, use all of it in the backswing and leave very little for that pre-stretch and the downswing. Or in his case, he's like, no, why do that? The most important part is that pre-stretch, getting that X factor loaded up and firing. So why would I use it all in the backswing and use it up? I like that. He has a club foot. He's not allowing that to be a detriment to his game. I have a buddy, Aaron, who I play golf with, and he actually uses his foot as a club, and it benefits his game. I'm just saying, I'm not calling him a cheater, but he's kicked a few balls out of the bushes. I'll tell you what. By the way, if you're wondering, this is a microphone. It's just a microphone. Okay, so what I want to do now. I know, right? Yeah. The guys behind you, this is the other part about you. You're not only just a great coach, you're also a great leader. Your staff behind you, you told them, guys, I want you just to stay in still. We're doing a podcast. Yep. This is a big moment. You're on the Coach Class podcast. He's done 400 episodes and he's got you on as a special guest. Do not move. Wouldn't it be so great if they all waved right now?
That'd be sick. That'd be sick. If we could do that, that'd be awesome.
We'll do that in post. Don't worry about it. I got my my crack team that will well, actually I call them the crack team because they're on crack. Okay, enough. Digress. What we're going to do now is this. We're going to go in and talk a little bit about the business because we have a lot of strength coaches who are business owners. And also people that just dream about the idea of owning their own gym. That beautiful gym you got in the background there, Tatum Performance, that is an impressive place. And that's just one of them. You've got two and a third on the way. So
it's like a kid, right? It's like my kids.
I know, exactly. It sounds like a kid.
Maybe a third on the way. Who knows?
Maybe a third on the way. Yeah. So yeah, you have kids and gyms that coincide with each other. So everybody looks at that and goes, wow, success. This is awesome. But it doesn't come without a lot of challenges as well. A lot of limitations that you had to work around. When I met you, different business, different structure to your business, and your highs and lows, you've learned a ton of lessons. Maybe you can just share a little bit about the journey of building.
Absolutely. THP is a concept that we put together to optimize human performance. And the great thing is it takes a team. And to get to the level that you want to be at, it also, like we talked about last week, Jay, and we were just chatting it up, like it takes so much time and years of mistakes. You have to work through those trenches, right? Like, I don't know how you can be 1 year into training and think you're going to launch this mega online training platform when you haven't really been to the grind, right? So, going through like learning as a youth athlete, learning those mistakes, going to university, and then going to Orange, California, having great mentors. I think taking chances on yourself, I think, is one thing that I've done really well, and try to surround myself with the best, like you and Lance and Dave and Greg and Jimmy, and the list goes on and on and on. and just keeping that cup empty, and then going from California to here to running a major health club and learning from the ins and outs of how that works, the wellness program. And it's not been an easy road. I mean, there's a lot of nights you spend up thinking like, how we're going to do this, how we're going to fix it. And, I just used my network and kept calling people, like, dealing with Jon, and we started that project. I called you, called some other people, and that road has taken years of development, years of hard work, years of mistakes, to get to where we're at. And now, it's I feel like we're just starting to climb that mountain to where we're starting to hit not even the peak. Like, we're just starting to get that ball is just rolling downhill, and it's getting really fun. So
it's unbelievable. I mean, just to watch the whole progression. But when you started to make Tatum Human Performance, and if you guys want to follow him on Instagram, it's at THP.fit, FIT. .fit. So THP.fit. Follow him on Instagram. Also, his personal account is at Win the Day. Write it out, Win the Day, with a 10 at the end. So Win the Day, number 10 at the end. So follow him on Instagram. I'll put that in the show notes and everything like that, and some more links for everybody, so you can see his website and really the business that he's running. But we want to get more into the nitty gritty here. When you develop something like this, and we had these conversations at Perform Better events, and had these kind of like, dude, you are the antithesis. It's a big word. It's the antithesis of dreaming big. I'm telling you right now, dude, you've told me things that you were going to do in business that I literally was like, oh, this guy is smoking crack. He is so out to lunch. This is impossible. You'll never be able to create this. This is not going to happen. And then a year later, 2 years later, you're like, hey, Jay, you should come and see my new facility. And I'm like, what? You did that? Oh yeah. Did you do the thing where you're helping like an incredible nation of people get healthier on this? Oh yeah, we're doing that. How many members have you got? Oh yeah, really? You're blowing my mind, man. You're constantly over delivering on your dreams that I always think, and I'm the DreamBIG guy, and you can out dream me, and you over deliver on it on a regular basis. It's unbelievable. What gives you that foresight, and then the ability to actually believe in yourself and work through it? Where did that come from?
I think on the foresight, I think it's like, you hear Wayne Gretzky talk, as that quote about, I always wanted to skate where the puck was going to be, not where it's at. Right. So that's something I've always looked at. And whenever I look at a business or what we're trying to do or a product we're trying to launch, it's not about how much money we can make on this. It's never the conversation. The conversation is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Not just for us. What is the bigger problem we're trying to solve? And then I just work it back into parts, right? Just like we would do a training program. I think training and business are very similar in so many ways. Is, you got to have that foundation work, you build that framework first. First thing I do is really build your vision, dream big, right? And I don't dream bigger than you. It's just I've had some unique opportunities, and I've been able to just capitalize them. And so on that side is like having that vision. Like, I spent 8 months on this new project when I was going through a separation from my old business and separating my partner and losing my facility and then reacquiring it back. But I spent 8 months writing on that vision, the strategy, everything from target demographic to what's it going to look like? What is our members going to feel? What is our team? What is our communication operation? Like, do we send text messages? Do we send emails to one another? Like, how do we communicate internally? How do we project manage? Brand guide, style guide, logo, the whole 9 yards, right? So really spent the time on stuff that no one wanted to do. And then as that evolved, once I did that and I wrote it all out and typed it up into multi-page documents, then you narrow. Then it becomes easy. Then all you got to do is focus on those 1 or 2 things that you got to do every single month. And then those 1 or 2 things you got to want to accomplish that quarter. Like, we run our business off what we call OKRs, objective key results, not KPIs. And our KPIs are key performance indicators to support that. Just like we would with training. Like, okay, if you came and you saw up in the gym and like, hey, okay, I want to hit it 126 club head speed and I want to have consistent more ball flight, then okay, first thing we got to do, we got to screen, right? We got to get to step 1, and step 2, then we got to put a GPP plan, then we got to go to a strength plan, then we got to get to strength power, then a translation period. So just kind of putting all that together. And I think it all comes from when I was a kid. You know, I'm dyslexic. I have ADD. I also have dysgraphia. And so I had to constantly figure out how to learn. And I couldn't just rote memorize stuff. I had to learn it, whether it's reading or writing. But then mathematics is really easy for me, and physics and chemistry. So that's, of course, where I'm at, doing physics and chemistry all day and mathematics. So that was fun. And I think going through, you know, ACL reconstruction, labrum tear, dislocated elbow, 2 pins put in the thumb, broken collarbone, multiple tear hamstrings, that I had to understand that this is a process. And if we focus on the process, we're going to achieve the outcome. And knowing what the outcome is and making sure that outcome is big enough, but then every day, process. And that's what we did.
You know, you use some different language than I do, but the actual process that you use to get there is the same. In my mentorship, we talk about this a lot about, you know, I like a game plan, and I write out, I like to handwrite a game plan, right? So I handwrite a game plan because I feel like a game plan should be creative. That's where you do your dreaming. That's where you do the juices come out. And for me, typing is work, where this is like, I can go and sit somewhere that inspires me and I can, you know what I mean? So I do that and I write it out. And then once I have that, now I go back to the computer. I was going to say typewriter. That's how old I am. I was going to go back to the typewriter. Now I start to type it out. And as I type it out, now it's like a formalized plan. But the dream, the written dream, is so much more important than what I'm writing there. But you have to do the hard work and like actually lay out the layers in specific, because you now need to share this dream with somebody else, because you can't do it alone. You need some help. Now, one of the things that I found, though, is when you look at business people, a lot of them talk about business plans. And then when you look at strength coaches, they go, here's my periodization plan. I'm a big fan of taking both of those and throwing them out the window, because I used to build these periodization plans. And every time I built one, within a month, if we're lucky, within a month, the whole thing goes out the window because something changed. Business plans. Yeah. And business plans, exactly the same thing, but doesn't mean you don't plan. And this is the point that you were making. It doesn't mean you don't plan, but you have to be flexible and know that you have an idea of what we're trying to accomplish is very specific, but the way we're going to get there, we know that there's going to be diversions. We know that we're going to go in 100 different directions. Is that similar to the way you plan, or did you actually build?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think business plans are still useful. I mean, that was very great, like in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I was hearing somebody speak about it yesterday, but it's a great process for everybody to go through at some point, right? Especially early on, especially from like the financial side. And really,
if you want money, you want to go to a bank, you got to have it.
Well, no, actually, they're going off of pitch decks now, right? So you can just go in with a great pitch deck, and as long as they buy into it, then they can see it. And so I think you're creating a vision guide, and one guy, so I had a great mentor named Dan Molina. He's former senior vice president of General Mills, head of strategic planning, mergers and acquisitions. And the one thing Dan always said is like, we should never have our business limited by our structure. And I feel like sometimes, like with training and periodization, like you get so caught up, like, okay, I got to do 6 weeks of training. Like, do you?
Right.
Do you? I don't know. I mean, like, what happens if we do some speed work and we're doing strength work, or we're doing aerobic work and strength work? You can get aerobic and strong at the same.
And what if you got to your end goal early? Like, no,
And
we're going to continue with this plan for 6 weeks because I wrote it down. No, we actually got him to the club head speed he was looking for after 3 weeks. Well, hold up. No, we got 6 weeks to go through here. Like, no, move on. Now we got it. Let's move on to other things, other elements. I totally agree with you. And the same thing happens in business as well. You have no idea how you try your best, but you have no idea how the world's going to respond to the product you're putting out to the world. And you have to adapt on the fly. But here's the deal. A good plan will allow you, when you do adapt, to stay on course and not get sideways and sucked into other projects that take you away from what we're trying to accomplish. So,
and I think the vision should never change, but the verticals might. Like, I mean, look at you. I mean, I remember when you called, and we had a conversation. It was you, me, and Lance. I think Jimmy was on that call too. and we are like, hey, let's do this group podcast. And we were kind of like, well, Jay, and then you're like, guys, I don't have time to wait anymore. I'm gonna go all into it. And now look, you're 400 episodes in, and you got sponsorship deals. I mean, like, Jesus Christ. I mean, Jay, like that is seizing the moment, and you may not know the answers, but you know what? You believed in yourself, and you just were like, bang, I'm gonna go get it. And I mean, that right there is huge. I mean, I've seen you develop over the years from podcasts to your speaking. It's unbelievable. It's been great.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But like I say, remember we talked about it at the start, the intention of this has to be at the right thing. You have to figure out why you're doing this. Yeah. And I started the podcast because I wanted to be a better public speaker. So guess what? You end up becoming a better public speaker. I had no idea that the podcast would take me 7 years and 400 episodes and all this I had no idea it was going to do that. All I wanted to do was just get better at public speaking. And so the end product is that. What comes out of that, you have no idea until you get into it. But most people, they sit there spending so much time planning, they never actually put the friggin' first foot forward and start the action. So when you had, I won't go into the details of this because you know what, we don't want to like focus on the negative, but when I saw you right after you separated from your business partner, and I've had one of those as well, by the way, when it's tough, it's a relationship. You trust in these people and you care for these people and you work together on like a little child, which is your business together. At the time, it probably felt like the worst thing in the world, but without that happening, you couldn't have what you have today.
No, I mean, there's so much good that came out of that. And like, we wish everybody great. There's no ill intent, misaligned business. Like, that just happens, right? People just change, that we evolve, we adapt, like that happens. And so, but I had high belief in myself, and I knew what I could do. And I knew what I was capable of. And it was just doing it, right? And I think the toughest things when you're a business owner or you're an independent strength coach, and you don't work for an organization, like there's no one really holds you accountable but you, right? And so having that self-discipline, belief in self takes a lot, right?
Well, and here's another part of this is like you are a business person and you're a wonderful business person. So you built a business. Now you can be seen as a business owner. You can be seen as a great trainer, and to be seen as a great trainer, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but for a lot of great trainers, they have to have a great client, right? So the weird thing is that regardless of whether you met Jon Rahm or not, you're still a great trainer. And there's a million great trainers out there that don't have the high level clientele to put them on like the cover, but that doesn't mean they're not a great trainer. So you got business owner, you are a great trainer. And you also have a great client, which propels your name brand and all that kind of stuff. Wonderful. But you do something that's way more important than that. And I'm hoping you can talk about this, what you're doing for a community in your area. I mean, when I say a community, it's a nation. The work that you do there, it's like, you'll be known as Jon Rahm's trainer who helped him win a major champion, but you're champion a whole bunch of people and changing lives.
Yeah, we're talking about the Native American work we've done in Indian country. Yeah, that's probably, you can never really say. It's like saying like, what kid you love more, right? That's so hard to say. I have 2 kids. You guys don't know, I have a little boy and a little girl. So on that side, like, we had this wellness project that I came down and took an opportunity to speak for some extra grant money for a couple $1,000, right, for a trip over to Atmore, Alabama. If you guys have been to Bama, this is in the sticks, all right? So you go about an hour north of Mobile. My dad's from the area. We went over there, and then we turned that into a pretty successful wellness program that got recognized multiple times. And that was a blast just to see. I mean, we had 80-year-old women who've never been in the weight room get in the weight room and get stronger and lose body fat and get healthier, and people's moms. And it was like every time you went down there, it was like watching Oprah almost. I mean, there were some challenges, of course, but I could sit there listening to those stories all day long, and it wasn't much. It was just really showing people that you actually cared and you had a clear pathway. Just like we're talking about beer and business, give them a clear pathway. We had an incentive program that drove outcomes, but they had to focus on like logging their water, logging their food, right? Even if they weren't perfect on it, at least they, just like we said, like do something. Something is better than nothing. And they started doing that, and then bang, I mean, like we had challenges that were 6 weeks long, and we had, total loss was like 700 pounds of fat loss in that community, right? I mean, it was crazy. We had 6,000 people participate in the program in Alabama and across the US. And
Let me stop you right there.
Unbelievable.
Let me just stop you there. That is the thing that people need to understand. 6,000 people. You touched over 6,000 lives in just this one project. So yeah, let's say Jon Rahm wins the major. Great. That's one life. Well, it's multiple lives, his wife and his agent and, his team. Okay, that's great. But 6,000 lives, and not changing them by winning a championship, you're saving lives there. And I understand they have to do the work, just like our clients do. They have to do the work. But dude, that is just insane. When you told me about that project, I was like, how do you, again, where does this come from? Where do you go? I'm going to help 6,000 people with their health. It's insane.
Yeah, but I mean, the first year, Jay, I mean, I think we had a contract for the whole tribe to start with. It was like 3,000 people. And the first year we had maybe 150 people participate, right? And then we figured some things out, we revamped some things, revamped incentives. The next year we had 1,500, and the next year we had over 2,000. Then we get the casinos involved. And it was crazy. And remember when you came, we didn't have the facility there, right? Oh, you were like, whoa, time out. You're training people with no gym. Yeah. No gym. And I was like, yeah. Like I fly in and I wrote programs, and that was before like really had technology. There was no workout app at that time. Like it was an assessment that that you added up the score, that then gave them a stock card with a 3-day-a-week strength program and had some aerobic work in it. And it had 5 levels, right?
And now you're using technology, not only like with communities like that, but also with your pros, like with your professional athletes, but you're using technology now where you can deliver programs, but also actually get data from how they're moving. Do you want to share a little bit about that? Are you into sharing some of the technology that you use?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, everybody talks about how, the big brother's watching me. I don't want to be tracked and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to chip in me. Like, well, you wear an Apple Watch, you have an iPhone in your pocket, you have a Fitbit on, like first, and those things are all saving people's lives. So like what we look at is like, we look at the technology conversation, which can be overwhelming, confusing, and you can just overstress about it and never take action on it. It doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be effective is rule number 1. Rule number 2, is it portable and adaptable? Can we use it for multiple things, or just like a $20,000 unit that we only have one person on and it's going to sit in the corner that we have to charge so much? So that's the other thing. And the next thing is like, we have an analytics software work with a company out of Canada. Your boys in Nova Scotia, Conduct is their data analytics company. So we look at, do they have a relationship with Conduct that I can pull data into the system and compare their Oura Ring to their push band, which is a velocity-based training system, to their training data, to their forms they're filling out, right? So that's the thing we're always, and I think it's mind-blowing now that we can do this from afar, and I can sit here and watch what's going on, and I can not predict, but you can have a pretty good understanding of how that person's doing, what's happening in their lives. And you do a phone call, the conversation, instead of going through an hour-long conversation, you can do it in 15 minutes now because you can ask better questions. Right. And it's sick.
Yeah. And it's amazing. That was a big thing for me, was being able to track the data of my clients, especially with our clients traveling all around the world. So you deliver a program, you just assume it's being done, and you assume that it's being done correctly. So I tried all those things. Like I tried Whoop, and I tried all these, there's a lot of wearable technology, and it's fine. There's some benefits to that. But the problem is that the athlete, every time you introduce a new technology, they go, oh, here we go again. What do I got? Like they think they have to learn something new. They have to do whatever. But that's why I thought it was really cool with the push technology, like velocity training, just putting a sleeve on your wrist training. And then we get the data back to see whether they're doing it at the right intensity and the right speeds that we're looking for. That one just blew my mind. I was like, okay, this is a no-brainer. So thank you so much for introducing me to the team at Push. That's an amazing technology, and especially for us remote coaches, who, we want to track our players when they're not with us. And that's a great way of doing that.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting one, because I had it for like probably a year and a half, and I really didn't do much with it. And I'm like, okay, time out. We need to quantify things better, right? And so my head of program design, Chris Reed, and I sat down and we were like, okay, Chris, how we're going to do this? Like, you have to have an implementation strategy, right? I think that's what a lot of people do. We get the latest new widget, or we go to Perform Better, and we buy the latest new equipment, and then we don't have like, okay, play with it, but don't implement it until you know what you're going to do with it and how is it going to work, right? So we do a whole battery of testing before we bring anything out to clients. But what was cool was two things, like med ball work, right? Be able to quantify med ball work instead of just throw it for 10 reps, right? Or throw it for 5 reps. Like, and then what's the right med ball weight? Like, can Jay handle 10? Can he handle 6? Can he handle 4? And are we training speed or are we training power, right? Are we training that strength speed, or are we training speed strength? Right? Are we trying to figure that out? And then on the lifting side, is you can take a simple exercise like trap bar deadlift, and see I can make that into a strength exercise now. I can make that into a power exercise, or I can make that into a speed exercise. And without ever changing the exercise, I can just change the weight, change the load, and just look at the velocity. And then what we've also done with this, which has been cool, is the instant feedback you get when a player sees the statistical number, like when they're either doing a rep or when they're done, and you walk them through and say, hey, what was your best rep? Oh, dude, 2. 2 is money. And you go look at it like, yep, you're right. 2 is right. And they can say, then what did you learn to do? It's like when we do speed training with timing gates, and if you get on the technical work, and the technical work is great, but at the end of the day, like, show them how fast they got and tell them that time. And that's like, that instant feedback is just game changer.
Absolutely. And what's weird is, and it sounds archaic after this conversation we just had about the push, but when I work with a client, even remotely, and I'm designing a new program, I go, I've got 8 reps here. Let's just see how it goes. And then you can tell me whether or not you need 6 or 8, right? So then they do 6 and they go, certainly, like when I did the 7th one, I was definitely getting slower. No, I'm like, okay, so let's do 6. Like, that's archaic, but that's what we have to do. Because most coaches just go, you got 8. And regardless of what happens, you got 8. I thought I was very proactive by actually asking the client, how many do you want to do? Knowing that they know the parameters that they have to be moving at their absolute top speed if they're going to get benefit. So you teach them, educate them, and then you go, how many do you want to do? Now, if they said 3, then I'm like, okay, well then now, just so you know, when you say 3, I now have to add all this new programming, because 3 is not good enough. We need to get you some better capacity. So then they go, oh, no, I can do 6. I can do 6. So there's a learning curve there. But my point is just be able to have technology and while I'm in Vancouver, my athlete's in Phoenix, and I can get, oh yeah, you know what? Your 4th one, normally you get 6. On the 4th one, you slowed down. You been sleeping all right lately? Have you been eating properly? Are you hydrated today? And the guy's like, I'm a little tired. You know what I mean? So that starts a conversation. Unbelievable. I love that. So,
well, and then also too, you feel like an aura ring, which we like a lot, and be able to see that and push. And then you can say like, hey, we have power day or heavy strength day. Like we're saying, like the periodization now is really irrelevant. Now, like if they got enough juice in the tank, let's go. Or they don't, like, hey man, let's back it off. Let's stay in these ranges. And it's super easy, and do it on your time.
Well, I remember Liam Hennessy, who's one of my mentors, incredible. I call him the Yoda of strength conditioning from Ireland. So he was trainer for Padraig Harrington, another major champion winner. And he would do counter jumps and pause jumps where you'd get down to the bottom of a vertical jump, stop. And he would check the differences between those. And then he would decide whether or not Padraig could do power training or speed training that day. And so again, that sounds archaic now, but who else? People aren't doing that. Like they don't. But to have technology that just gives me that answer right away, and I don't have to do an algorithm that, computes the difference between one to the other. I just go, that's a no-brainer. Like let's just press play on that one. Let's get it in place. So
Now, on the other side of the story too, Jay, is that the other challenge is that they don't have those coaches' eyes, right? And when you don't, and they don't truly own the principles, so then they don't know if it's right or wrong.
Right.
Right. They're relying on technology too heavy, and technology is great to quantify things, but eventually you're not going to have a push fan and your radar hooked up behind you when you're teeing off the US Open, right? He also, now we got to remove everything and you do it and you tell me how it feels too. And you got to have these coaches' eyes. Like, I know, like, I can go in, I can tell if that bar is moving fast enough and a clean or a snatch or a push press, just if I hit that clink, clank, clink, clank, I'm not even see it.
Right.
Like, I can know, okay, that's good. If I don't hear that clink, clank, I know something's off, right? That you got to have that experience, right? So that's where it's good and it's bad at the same time.
Well, that's a weird thing. Like when you talk about that, when new technology comes out, like if I'm talking to a person who's trying to sell me technology, they often go, let me show you what our technology does. And I go, whoa, hold on a second. And not to be a jerk, but let me hold up. Here's what I need it to do. I'm going to tell you what I need, and you tell me if you can do it. Because you're going to tell me a bunch of bells and whistles that 1,000 other coaches have told you that they want, but this is all I wanted to do. I just wanted to do this. And like, but look at all these other things it does. And I go, yeah, I don't need that. I just want it to do this. Can it do this? And they're like, well, not as good as, I'm like, okay, then I don't need it. Right. So it sounds like I'm being a jerk, but a good coach asks the technology to do what they need versus I'm going to buy technology to give me things that I didn't even know I want. Ooh, that's deep. I'm going to make a t-shirt, I think.
Yeah, write that one.
I'm going to write that one.
T-shirt. Look at this. Look at this unbelievable ideas going on. I think that is the cool thing. So I worked with Kate Weiss, sports science for the Dodgers. We were in quantifying things, and it was so cool because it was never about what she could do, right, or what she could ever do. She goes, "What do you want to know?" And you're like, "Shit." Like, what is the most important thing you want to know? And you're like, that's interesting. Like, we could do this. Like, no. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna pick 3 things to simplify. So, you do these 3 things, like side toss med ball, trap bar deadlift at this weight, and RSI jump, 10-5 RSI, right? You can do that every week, and their movement's great. That way you can see these trend lines and you get more frequent testing. And I was like, that's actually really good, right? And I was like, that's pretty cool. So I think anytime we look at something, we always think, what do we want to know? What are we trying to measure? What is the goal?
Yeah.
We don't know that, then it's relevant.
It's flipping the cart upside down, but it makes sense. And so many people ride it the wrong way. They put the cart first and the horse in the back, and they try and make it push. And as you know, horses do not want to push that way. We would be amiss if we didn't share a little personal story here. And we can probably leave out a few details here, but
sure.
I mean, I don't know why your kids don't call me uncle. You know what? You decide who the godparent of your kids are. And I understand you have family.
Uncle Jay hasn't met him in person.
True.
That's
Uncle
the
Jay
other thing.
Now, just so people their brains don't go forward. I had nothing to do with the kids. I had everything to do with putting my man Spencer together with his lovely wife and mother of his children. And I didn't even know her. That's the beautiful thing. But what I do know is when I see love, I have to put it together. When I see 2 beautiful people, I have to put it together. And some people would call me the drummer boy of love.
That, those drumsticks that night, the way you're twirling them, I think Tommy Lee was about to call you to take lessons. I really did. You know what?
It's a distraction mode. It's a distraction technique. Just to get everybody up to speed, I'll just very quickly. We went and saw a live band. Well, many live bands. We were doing a bar hop in, was it Tempe?
Old Town Scottsdale.
Old Town Scottsdale. Okay, Old Town Scottsdale. And we had a few beverages, went and saw a band. I'm obsessed with drumming, just watching drummers. I'm just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I told the drummer, you are unbelievable. That was like insane. I loved watching you drum. And he goes, oh, here, man, here's some drumsticks for you from the show. I'm like, drumsticks? You kidding me? So I'm like walking through bars, just going, tick, tick, just having some fun playing the drums. And every time we met new people, they'd be like, "Oh, so you're a strength coach, and here's Jimmy. He's the chiropractor physio. Yeah, okay. Here's Harry Say. Yeah, he's a chiropractor ninja. And what do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a professional drummer." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, well, watch." And I would just keep drumming. And then it became this thing where people were like, "Okay, we need to get away from this guy because he's annoying us with the drumming." And I almost got into a couple of fights from the drumming. But then the ladies, these hot ladies, and I'm happily married, so I'm like, "Listen, you don't get a shot with the drummer, but you can maybe hook up with my roadie here." And his name's Spencer Tatum, and he has some big dreams ahead of him. So while you guys talk it over, let me play a little betting music for you. And the rest is history.
Yeah, no, it's a true story. He's 100% true. I mean, thank God for Mark Berry too. He saved the day.
Mark Berry was the best.
He's just cool hand Luke. He came in and so Jay was there when I met my wife. Didn't know her. She didn't know me. We chatted, and this is funny, and she will appreciate this, even though I catch a lot of crap for it.
Yeah,
there was her and her friend, and I was like, "Hey, let me get your number. We can hang out after this, like another time when we're not, in the midst of everything." She's like, "Okay, cool." So I gave her my phone because it was her friend and her, and I couldn't remember, like, all right, what was it, Carly or was it shoot? And so I gave her my phone. She's entered her number in. And she's like, then she stopped asking her number. So she goes, "What's my name?"
Oh no.
I'm like, I was like, "Kelsey?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, whoa, time. Like, who gives a person a real name? Like, really?
Yeah,
Charles, right?
we just
she's
met like 2 minutes ago, and we got drummer boy behind me distracting me. So
for sure. And then, but then look, now we're 6 later, married for 3 years, 2 kids. And I mean, it's all because of the little drummer boy in the corner with his yellow shirt on, which I still have video of on my phone.
I had no shirt on?
No, you got a yellow shirt on.
Yellow shirt.
You're
okay.
You're a canary. It's like you flocked down from heaven upon Scottsdale.
Yeah. Ah, tick, 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 tick. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so good. So good. And I'm excited for you because you know what? Like we talk about on the podcast a lot, business, training, all the stuff. It's all wonderful. It's all, bells and whistles. But when you have someone at home that supports you, that you love, and you've developed a family and you got kids and the whole bit, that is so much more important than any business venture, any major championship or anything like that. Ask Jon Rahm. He's way more excited about the birth of his child than the major championship win. So I'm so happy for you on so many levels, dude. And it sounds to me by this conversation, we got to have you on the podcast again because we're having way too much fun. So what I want to do here is this. I want you to, we always finish with this. And I feel like we've touched on a little bit of this, but I always want to finish with a guest, especially like yourself, who's accomplished so much. I always say, we always finish this podcast with dream big, over deliver, be undeniable. And those are the 3 things, those 3 pillars that I live my life by. Out of dreaming big, which is like putting something on paper that's so unbelievable, if it came true, the hair would stand up on your arms. Over delivering, which is like actually making it happen and then going even further with it. And then being undeniable is when the shit hits the fan, you have the skills or the chutzpah to find a way around that obstacle. Of those 3, which pops into your head first that you want to share a lesson for our listeners?
A lesson or an idea?
Anything.
I get 2 things. So I think like I think dream big on that note is, oh man, I think what I'm thinking about right now is like being able to get information on people and create a machine learning AI algorithm is something we're working on right now, that if we can make that happen to where it would understand their whole holistic approach from movement to health to fitness to power to speed and have that clear pathway and all the other variables that come in there and be able to leverage that in the palm of their hand in a very cool experience. Like, to me, I think that would be like the ultimate one. And from a business standpoint, that we could do that we could touch globally. I think that'd be pretty cool, and to do it with people that I love to be around, and that it's not about me and it's about the team and what we're trying to accomplish. Because I mean, we got things on the over deliver side. I think that I got to talk about my team. I mean, I can't be more proud of these human beings. I mean, they able to take concepts now and deliver. They got so much going on. I can't even keep up with them. I have to have check-in meetings with them so I can find out like how fast they're doing things, and like they're just over delivering. I mean, like Ian Zuby, he's a client of ours he's the founder of Super Stroker. He just completed his 200th session with us, which is a guy who never thought. He's like, oh yeah, this probably won't work for me. And like to see my team take him on and get him to where he's feeling great, and like it's so cool to see those stories. And then over deliver, be undeniable.
Yeah,
I think undeniable, like preparing for when AI and Apple and them get into this game hard, that that people still need you. Like they still want that relationship with you, your team, your product. I think that's the necessity that everybody's gonna have to sharpen their pencil on, because the machine's coming. You can't stop it.
Speaking of that machine, you are growing constantly. You're always evolving and developing your business. You're looking for people. You're looking for great staff. You're looking for people that want to take on a challenge and be a part of a bigger team and take on an opportunity. So we'll put that in our show notes. We'll put a little link there so that people can find you. But just for general public that want to find you, what's the best place for them to find more about what you're doing and the mission that you're putting on out there in the world?
Thanks. I think it's www.thp.fit. So just Tatum Human Performance, THP is what you'll see our branding on everything as, THP.fit. Instagram, same thing, THP.fit. You got to go check out some of those videos the team's creating. We just did the workout bachelorette. It's pretty sick.
Oh, I got to see this.
You guys, it's hilarious. Then these guys created we do all of our social in-house, all of our content creation all in-house. So those are probably the two best ways. You want to email me, Spencer at thp.fit, SPENCER@thp.fit. And anytime anybody wants to chat, a listener, love to have me some listeners on so we can rap about Jay and drinking our coffee.
More great stories over here. So Spence, can't thank you enough for being on the show. Next time we'll maybe have you and Jimmy on the show together, the tandem. That would be crazy. I think we'd have zero content, nothing but jokes, but that's fine. And we'd probably be canceled, to be honest. So, and we'll get Lance. So me and Lance on this side, you and Jimmy on that side. We'll throw Harry Say in the middle. We'll have Dave Phillips, pouring coffee all over everybody.
We're going mega. First of all, let's talk about Dave Phillips for a second. I have not gotten any coffee for wellness. I've
had no coffee from Dave either. Dave has not given me any of his wellness coffee. I think Phil Mickelson's like, hey, you have too many friends, Dave. You're getting nothing. You're getting zero. You're just getting a personal supply. You're not giving them out to your buddies. What's up with that, Dave?
I hear about it every week, but no coffee. We call it the fam coffee over here. Because it doesn't exist.
I love it. It's fantastic. Spencer, so we will have you back on the show and we'll have a lot of fun. Again, we'll go into the depths of training because this has been fun. You got my brain going. But until next time, I want everybody to dream big, over deliver, be undeniable. And we always finish it by saying, cheers, everybody. Cheers, everybody. There we go. We did it. Awesome.